And all right, yeah, I think we can go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you're joining us from. Thank you for tuning in today. For those that don't know me, I'm JD. I'm the community operations lead here at Agora Copco, and I'm joined by Dean and Iulia for what is going to be a special year-end wrap-up review for our Community Connect series. So I know everybody knows both of you at this point, but can we start with some quick intros? Iulia, we'll start with you.
Thanks. Hi, JD. Hi, everybody. I'm Iulia. I'm the VP of Marketing for Agoric.
And I'm Dean Tribble. I'm the, Chief Executive Orchestrator for Agoric.
Needs no introduction at this point. And so, yeah, for anybody new joining for the first time, this is our Community Connect call where we just bring up questions from the community. We share some updates from the team, and as this is the end of the year, this one we're going to just spend some time recapping what happened in 2024 and what we're looking forward to in 2025. So before we get into the community questions, Dean and Iulia, let's start with what were some of the highlights or milestones for you in 2024? Dean, I'll turn to you first for this.
Sure. So, beginning of 2024, we really switched. We realized how valuable what we were building is for what we call orchestration specifically, but generally there's this beginnings of an idea called chain abstraction out of Everclear. And so in February we started focusing on how our platform really could change the game there, and noticing how important it was to the crypto industry going forward. And so we really kicked it off with Near, Flashbots, and Everclear and a few others in February to show how you could do these things that are otherwise impossible on top of the Agoric platform. And that's just ramped up. I mean, that got people recognizing, and telling us, here's a thing you can do that I can't get on any other platform, and here's how I want to use it. And that shifted us from primary focus on new projects that people were starting to build, where we're head-to-head competing with the grants that giant foundations could make, to these orchestration projects, to this fundamental change that let us orchestrate the activity across multiple chains. And so that momentum is built over time. And at each of these events where we've talked, and each time we've had people come to us and say, here's what I get out of that, here's what I want to do with it, we've learned more about what this can do and what's novel about our platform. And so that's just been really an exciting thing to participate in, an exciting thing to learn as we went forward, and sort of the most important element that's driven what we've been building, how we've been working with new teams, and getting people to build on Agoric. So we had that idea late last year. We built talked about it, worked with other people at the beginning of the year, got folks interested in our early access program, built and launched the core APIs. So they're up and running. They're used for some things internally, and then there are multiple projects that are in the stages of building and launch. We've got so we see this traction from not just new projects, but really traction from existing projects that have users that go, I need that. I need to be cross-chain, and this looks like the solution for that. So Fast USDC, we're partnering with Noble to accelerate USDC. The nature of that is an on-chain solver, which we were out at DevCon and talking to the broader Web3 world, and they're very excited about how this is different from and complementary with a lot of the solving architecture for what's called intents out there. And so building Fast USDC is a first thing to use that technology, use orchestration to accelerate moving USDC from ETH into Cosmos and elsewhere, is something that we're all excited about, and that will dovetail with a bunch of other efforts in both Cosmos and EVM to help make that happen. We're working with projects like Ellis. They and they're building on Agoric, building orchestration to extend their platform. Their token just launched, and they're in the process of listing, and that's a really exciting launch. We're excited to work with them. Baratrax in the Barachain ecosystem, Zero Mile, several other folks out there, some of you on our call here, that are starting to build with orchestration, and we're really looking forward to working with you and getting those things out and launched. So we launched our builders program and have not only those projects, but also developers in, and Iulia will talk more about some of the events that we've done, especially in the last quarter, to really focus on our unique ability to enable people to do what I call end-to-end use cases, to really make multi-chains actions seamless so that users can go and do what they want instead of having to piece together these simple operations and figure out how to make some end-to-end thing happen themselves. And so really this moves us to look forward to a future that we are helping build and that affects the entire Web3 community of enabling these end-to-end rich user use cases and more sophisticated support where users can directly say, I've got my money locked up here. I want you to convert it, move it, change it, stake it, get the rewards, and do this thing for me. Authorize that and make it happen automatically, right? That kind of use cases, it grows over chains from the simple things of move my money and buy something to this end-to-end staking and yield optimization and richer DeFi is something that we've built the core of. We've launched the core of. We're working with people that are building now on that to ship some of those pieces in Q1 and on through all of 2025. So we'll talk a little more about 2025, but I'm very excited about what we've got going here. That's what I'm excited about for this year is how far we got there. I will hand it over to Iulia.
Iulia, you muted.
Thank you. Yeah, hi everybody, and I'll start with doubling on what Dean said. I think the first big win that I want to mention for Agoric is the very solid, strong share of voice that we've gotten for this new narrative that we've been pushing ahead. And we've been tracking and we've been proactively marketing both Agoric in the chain abstraction space as a solution to chain abstraction space and orchestration as a narrative. Both we've been seeing very strong share of voice both on crypto media outlets and on crypto Twitter, and we are already leaders in orchestration narrative, with like a nice 38% share of voice in all the mentions of orchestration that happen outside of what we post or our competitors post. So it's really nice to see the establishment of the orchestration narrative as a narrative in its own and spinning off from chain abstraction. I'd also recognize as a win that the fact that Dean is seen as the OG in the chain abstraction movement. As you remember him standing in a panel with Vitalik and Iulia and having this nice recognition in front of the community that Agoric is part of the solid stack that is building the Web3 economy. The second win that I wanted to mention is the builder adoption. On the builder adoption, when I joined, the team was already preparing to launch orchestration and hyper-focused on launching and on getting traction. And that was immediately we put in place. We launched the early access program, and we are now seeing more than 60 multi-chain builders onboarded, and the majority of them came in 3 months alone since we launched orchestration. So that's a nice movement to see and a nice traction for the product. In the builders program, we've also launched it as a way to drive comprehension and interest for developers and education at scale. So in there, I would mention the partnership with Rising, that is the largest global Web3 educator at scale for builders and developers. And it also marked our first step into India. The highest growing Web3 ecosystem of developers per the Electric Capital report. We were present there in December with not just one, but two hackathons. We've had the Rising Fast Hacks for 3 days that Santi, our director of marketing, was there and engaging with about 130 developers. And we were also guests in the Octo hackathon, another chain abstraction player that spun out of the biggest centralized exchange in India. So trying to establish solid position in places where it matters and with the right narrative. Throughout the year, we participated in 10 global industry events. The team has done a phenomenal job. We have Santi and Antman and Florencia that have been driving event after event on all continents. We had 4 community-led events in Istanbul, Ankara, and Buenos Aires. So huge shout out to our community organizers, to Onur and Maxi. And we are currently seeing amazing results coming out of these direct engagements with developers. We had 32 developers actively building on chain since December only, since the hackathons happened in India. Our next on our wins list is definitely the community work. We've doubled down on the community program with our first community lead hire. We have Miguel Romero. Couldn't be happier to have him on board. He's already proven to be a star with the community, and he's launched this very engaging Composers series podcast. We're seeing like 350 unique viewers that tuned in for the last episode. We are seeing it with the programs, we are seeing it with the engagement, and we are seeing it in the numbers. We've had a 30% increase in the number of followers on X. We've had the Indian social media community launched and very successful, and the community was tracking those numbers. And we are seeing jump in the community sentiment that JD is now tracking with a community, with a sentiment index. So we are doing things, we're trying to do things at scale, and we are also measuring in order to be able to properly track successes and what can be optimized. Lastly, just as with community, we put in place 2 big programs where we let others speak about us. So it's more than just us marketing ourselves. The most important thing is when we actually tap into the others' powers to market and speak about Agoric. And so definitely a big shout out and a big ask for the community to continue to push us and to speak about us. And we have the thank you. And we have the co-marketing program. It's the marketing that we do with all these established players that are interested in integrating with us. And for every announcement that we put on X or on Discord, we have a co-marketing playbook behind, and a lot of marketing going out to the communities of our partners and seeing traction from that side. And I think that we will speak a bit more. I know that there are some questions from the community about the partnerships. To mention just a few, I think we want to highlight the partnership with Noble, the integration with Noble, for whom we are launching a fast USDC solution, the partnership with Alice, with the Alice network, and we have 0 Mile also building. And the last one that we've just announced and very proud of is Beratrax from the Berachain community. And maybe just to finish with, or maybe I'll let Dean go into the 2025 thoughts and we can take it from there. And now you're on mute.
So there we go. Click the wrong button. Yes, absolutely. So thank you for all that. Thank you for all your work growing the community, and thank you, community, for for all your support. I will say one of the things, the end of the year, as Iulia said, we arranged a bunch of events which involved a whole lot of travel and a whole lot of time spending face-to-face time with people, which was awesome. But it also meant I did not spend as much time, in Discord, in Telegram, in Twitter as I have done sometimes. And I know in 2025 I would love to spend more. We'll see how that works. Our big is getting out there. So orchestration really is a game changer. We think it's a game changer for Web3. And we have the growing traction that says other people think so too. So the goal is, we've shipped connection of all the IBC chains, and 2025 is all about connecting the rest, right? It's all about getting projects launched on chain, the user orchestration to solve real critical problems, to solve actual things that are valuable to them, and then connecting out because, grow from where we're at to really enable orchestration across EVM, across Solana, across other ecosystems as we go forward. So it's about taking this technology that you all helped us build and have supported us through and really applying it across the board and enabling lots of people to do lots of cross-chain things. One of our experiences is, as Niv talks about, Niv, who's business development, when he goes and talks to people that are interested in orchestration, is the more users they have, the more interested they are, because the multi-chain really is going to be the only chain. Every application, from our perspective, just like in Web 2, every application is an orchestration layer that coordinates the activity of microservices. In Web 3, you're going to get the same thing. It's going to be user interfaces talking to an orchestration layer that then talks to chains and the fundamental financial services that we're growing in this Web 3 ecosystem. And so we think orchestration is an enormous step forward, and we look forward to 2025 making that ramp up and really making that happen. So excited about that. Excited about people helping build us. Now, on the way, we're going to be doing lots of things to improve the performance, security, safety, all those kinds of things with the chain, working to have more and more permissionless elements going forward. I think we've got enough to do with orchestration and enabling cross-chain application that we will not get all the way through to permissionless in 2025, but we will definitely have wrinkles there. Instead, our focus on a bunch of the engineering sides is take it from building a contract or building and deploying an interesting multi-chain activity in what might be a couple quarters and bring that down to a couple of weeks. And we've made strides in that, and some of that will be improving documentation and tooling and engineering, and some of that will be some work that we're starting to work on with respect to using AI to help build orchestration stuff, and that is still in the very, very early stages and stuff that I hope we'll get to really dig into and talk about Q1, Q2, and roll something out. But the focus is building the orchestration out to connect these ecosystems, so you can move assets from EVM to Cosmos or EVM to Solana or Solana to Cosmos as easily as right now with orchestration you can move it among all the many Cosmos chains. So excited about that. Now there are plenty of other things that are going on around the platform. Is Rick in the audience? We talk about community. The Discord community is awesome, and I get to see the occasional lambasting of and lots of good ideas and lots of excitement and engagement. But DCF is one of our biggest partners in the community. That's their world is our community. Their world is the IST that drives us, that drives the chain and so forth. So I'd love for Rick to say a few words if you would.
Hey, Dean, thanks for the invitation. I'm going to be off video. I've got workmen here at the house today, and hopefully it's not going to cause us a problem during this session. But if it does, I'll find a way to reconnect and get back with you guys. Really cool just kind of sitting here and listening to, sort of a recap of what happened in 2024. In my head, it was such a difficult year, right? And finally here towards the end, things have turned around and the market's looking better. Sentiment is better. Activity levels are up. Partnership development's coming together. The marketing messaging is starting to get traction. It just feels like we're in such a better place than we were 12 months ago. And that's really a great feeling to have. And it's been a long time coming. On the DCF side of things, as we look back at 2024, a couple of things really stand out. I mean, in addition to doing a lot of behind the scenes ecosystem support activities, which, DCF doesn't have a lot of name brand recognition for the work that we do there. But trust us, there's a ton of stuff that goes on in the background that we work away quietly on trying to bolster the ecosystem. And a lot of that comes to capital market supports, whether it's interfacing with market makers, whether it's looking at exchange listings, conducting co-marketing activities with partners and with exchanges, et cetera. DCF is largely behind a lot of that. We had a couple of exchange listings come through this last year. We had the Bitmart and the Coins PH listings. And we know those are smaller exchanges, and some people in the community have grinched about that and said, why aren't we going after the bigger exchanges? But you need to zoom out just a bit and see the larger context, which is these smaller exchange listings were really designed to provide us with geographic coverage that makes Build ubiquitous across the globe, where people can buy Build off their local exchange, where they do business, et cetera. And that sort of foundation laying is what we needed to get our volume levels up to a point where Build listings on tier 1 exchanges are attractive to those tier 1 exchanges. We are currently engaged with some tier 1 exchanges, and I have to be a bit coy about, what we say in public in these discussions. It is really just it's a regulatory sensitivity issue is all it is, guys. We're not playing hide the ball. We're just trying to stay clean with the regulators. There are things happening. Some of those tier 1 exchange listings that we are exploring are horrendously expensive. And that's something that I really struggle with, particularly when token price is down. And some of them have really crazy asks in terms of wanting a percentage of the total token supply, which is fine. If you've just launched a meme coin, you can give up 5-10% of your total token supply. But if you're an existing token in the market, those kind of asks are really, really hard to meet. So we are fighting that fight right now. We are in KYC and application process with some of the larger exchanges and name brands that you would know. But again, I can't talk too much about that at this point in time. The other thing that DCF does quite a bit of is we sort of provide the umbrella that covers inter-protocol. And what I mean by that is we provide financial support for the economic committee, for the expenses that are required to maintain inter-protocol and keep it going. Things like, for example, the Oracle network. That sort of foundational infrastructure support for inter-protocol is something that we hope can eventually transform into community support, but we know that the numbers don't make sense right now. So we'll continue to subsidize that and support inter-protocol going forward. We have been working to optimize inter-protocol and make it more palatable from an expense point of view. So for example, recent community governance saw us decrease the size of the economic committee from 6 members down to 3, which is a significant savings in costs. We've also implemented some cost savings on the Oracle side, courtesy of the really lovely people over at Simply Staking. Those guys are great partners for us. We love them, and a shout out to the Simply Staking crew if any of them are listening. So we are doing things that make inter-protocol more sustainable, more viable across the long term. And we're now starting to see, with this shift in market sentiment, an uptick in activity, and we're starting to add new collateral asset types. DAtom has been approved and will be coming on board very soon, followed by hopefully a wrapped Bitcoin variant. It's up to the community what's next, but that seems to be what a lot of the chatter is about. And I just saw that Drop did DTIA as well. That might be something that's interesting for us to look at, and some of the other sort of novel assets that are coming into the space. And, that's really sort of the goal, is to make inter-protocol the super easy on-ramp to stable tokens within the Cosmos ecosystem, and make it really your sort of default choice, because it's easy to do things and it's integrated with orchestration. So being that sort of stable token that is native to the orchestration environment is a big part of the strategy going forward, and something we're going to be talking more about in 2025. Okay, I've prattled on for a long time. I'm going to go ahead and stop now. If anyone has any questions, of course, I'm happy to answer those too. And thanks again for giving us some time on stage, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. I agree. Simply is great. We're working with them on a piece of the FastUSDC stuff that will be coming out early Q1, and of course I've been working with them for a long time on ISD things. And I have nothing to do with Tribbles, Bob, but it's so awesome to see that moving along. I have one, and Brian just dropped some alpha there. So Brian from Informal, we've worked with them for many years, of course, and in particular, now he does a lot of the driving of the Hydro project, which is where the hub grant of Atoms that's backing IST has moved from manual stuff, which involved a giant multi-sig, and each of us sort of taking turns to try and wrangle 5 other people that have too busy schedules to sign transactions, into the Hydro project that can do the allocations of Atom to back important things like IST, not just for Agoric but for the overall interchain. So that transaction, I think, finished last night, and now Hydro can pick up the ball and move some backing to go to the community about moving backing to of Atom from the Atom community pool to IST. So as that happens, I hope everyone in the Agoric community will reach out and support that. That's really critical, again, not just for Agoric, not just for orchestration, but for the growing health of real decentralized stablecoins backed by all the various assets that we've all helped create. And so very excited about that project, very excited both for their support of us and our support of them. It's really important work. So with that, I will turn it back over to JD. I'm sure we took longer than we were supposed to.
It was an exciting year, a lot to cover, and thanks to all 3 of you for sharing. Rick, thanks for coming up and just giving some perspective on DCF and Interprotocol on the year as well. A very welcome surprise to have you as a guest speaker.
And then Bob, of course, said in channel Tribbles, which is which I'm looking forward to, but again, it's third party.
And I'm sure it means something. And so, moving on, we have some questions from the community that, for every one of these calls, we field some questions and ask for community members, what do you want to know? What do you want to see answered? So we'll move on to these. Coming to the first question, there are some new members on the team this year, which is exciting. So how big is the team now, and going into 2025, where do you think new team members will be needed most? Dean, maybe this is a good question for you.
Sure. So the team has actually been pretty stable size-wise over the course of the year. We added some key roles. The team is, all up, including contractors and that sort of thing, around 40 people. So it's not a small team, but but the system has a lot of layers to it. And so, we have a development team where a bunch of people are working on performance and scaling and, integration of new features at the low level, and a smaller team that works on orchestration API and integration with partners and that sort of thing. We added very key roles. Iulia here was one of the most important roles we added. Niv doing BD, others on the, and we grew a team in Pakistan that does DevRel support. They leaped in to support the multiple India hackathons that were mentioned. And so forth. So that's about the size of the team. We've held stable. We expect that to be about the right number, with some fluctuations, at least for the next 6 months, until we're all really focused on getting orchestration and orchestration adoption and contracts deployed, and let's get that before we worry about before we work on growing. And then the growth, then we need to grow like crazy, because it's about marketing across, ETH and Solana, participating internationally, growing business development and DevRel support and that kind of thing. Broadly, we know what that'll take. And that'll take a lot of time and attention, and it will leverage our early access partners that are building now. But then it'll take a lot of community work as well. And so we look forward to growing the community, supporting the community, and helping us to grow the community, and all those kinds of important dynamics that really matter to a growing ecosystem. The focus on orchestration has really been an inflection point because of that. It really changes the engagement from us telling people, hey, JavaScript would be great, and they agree, but the liquidity's over there, to, oh, we're as connected to ETH as anybody, and I can extend my project with your orchestration instead of having to have started on your platform. So the ability to invite existing projects onto our platform means we got a lot more people to talk to, and they're a lot more interested. And so I'm, very excited about when we need to grow in Q2, Q3.
No, I was on mute. Thanks for that. Moving on, in 2024, we saw Agoric at many events. Iulia, what was the general take from event participation and event attendance this year?
Yes, events are big, and crypto people are first digital and secondly social. We are social butterflies. We like to meet in person. They are very important. So we've been at 13 events, present at 13 events. It's been challenging physically, especially the second part of the year, where everything in Europe, Middle East, Asia. And so that's something to recognize and to appreciate, or to be hopeful for this year that crypto is moving back to the US. There are big hopes in there, but we need to be where the community is. Some observations. One is what's being done and what's being talked at the events. Chain abstraction, the up and coming narrative. We were invited to 5-6 side events when we were there for a main one. It's such a big topic, and the reason why we are invited and Dean is like really on request on the stage is because, of course, he's an OG and thought leader, but on top of that, with orchestration, we bring back the discussion about how to get to mass adoption. And I think that this year is all about the experience and improving the experience and making Web3 accessible for the masses. And this is what orchestration and chain abstraction enable. Secondly, for the events, and I think that that's a bit less visible on the community side, but it is a big sales engagement driver. The majority of the partnerships that we have announced and the other ones that are in NIF's pipeline, they get at least accelerated at these events. It's a very important sales tool, and so very important for us to be in there, to put the time, the effort, the energy, the jet lag, to be there present. So continuing this year, we will be present at events. We would also like to do more community-led events. So an ask to the community to help us be present in relevant communities on the ground.
Yeah, local community support made a huge difference at some of these events.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great to have people that are from the area come and participate for sure.
Yeah.
With all of these events comes networking and partnerships. And with the partnerships announced for Agoric this year, which do you think will bring the most users to Agoric? Dean, I'll start with you for this one.
Oh, well, they'll bring different users. So they've got a solid, 160K plus community. They just launched their token. They listed Ellis. I think it's on Gate.io with a giveaway. They're driving a universal liquidity layer, and they really understand about the power of being able to program cross-chain. And so they're very aligned on orchestration, and we're very excited to work with them to enable their functionality to extend out to more and more chains. So connecting with that community of users, because they're an end user facing application, but enabling rich use cases for those users, that'll bring a big chunk. USDC, the partnership with Noble is huge, right? Having the fast USDC and integration with multiple pathways for USDC coming in, that will bring a lot of users. But our focus there, it's of course a money transfer infrastructure play. But it's one where ISD, as we mentioned, really important to have a decentralized stablecoin. But USDC really is a big chunk of the money flows between and within ecosystems. And so having automation around that and having it easy to extend that to the next step of I move my money and then I buy something, or I unbund something, I move my money and then I buy something, that sort of stuff that folks like, Omniflix and others are starting to build, that brings a lot of core users from a system point of view. They may not experience Agoric, but they're using the power of it. And it brings developers that talk directly to users as they start to see more and more of these use cases that we can talk about. And those use cases are the next step, if you will, where we can sort of point at those end results of being in person. One of the reasons why these in-person events are powerful is people could see viscerally, developers and builders could see viscerally, oh, I see how this is different, and now that I can hear it, see it, touch it, feel it, whatever, talk to us about it. And that's and the difference, the thing that's unique about Agoric is really powerful once you grok it. And so seeing more use cases will get more people to the point where they grok it, and that'll bring a lot of people in. So I'm excited about user-facing folks starting to see the power of orchestration, and developers seeing how much value it adds to what they've already built.
And Iulia, do you have any additional thoughts to that of which partnership will bring most users, or anything to add?
So when we look at partnerships, we distinguish the users, right? We are in a very complex business model here, which is like B2B2D and B2B2C, and we are looking. It depends how you define you. The big partnership. We have a sales channel partnership program where we partner with these guys that are going to open new ecosystems for us, and that's driven very much by the expansion of the orchestration capabilities to new ecosystems. So actually very excited about the expansion to first Ethereum and then Solana, and then next on the list, the good chains out there. So that will definitely be a big playbook also for marketing. We also partner on the developer side, the partnership with Rising, and now we are discussing with other partners to take us to big communities of developers and to help us with getting them to excited, testing, learning, and start building on Agoric. So different users come from different places. The users can be the users of orchestration directly, but continuously our long-term North Star is basically looking at the end user and what orchestration does for that end user. So these integration partnerships are extremely important, and we are constantly looking for the builders like Zero Mile, like Beratrax, that have this direct relation with the user and that integrate orchestration to take us into the end user land.
And into new ecosystems. The other thing that and love connecting with Union to help actually connect to all those places, because the other dimension of this is what will help us to reach new users. Well, it's crossing all these ecosystems, which is the big mission for early Q1 or early 2025.
And so, Iulia, you kind of touched on it a little bit with your response, so I'll come to you. How long does it take to see targeted achievement with these partnerships? For example, when will you see a collaboration or a product come to life out of a partnership announcement?
It takes time right now, and it takes time also because we've just launched orchestration 3 months ago, and the partnerships that we have announced, the integration partnerships that we have announced, are actually done with design partners. So we build for them, we build with them and for them, and that takes time. Now, once we do that, once we have these solutions out on the market, FastUSDC, the orchestrators, what we're building, then we'll see an acceleration, and we remain committed to very short turnaround times for integrations, going down at least to a few weeks maximum in 2025.
And
so more ambitious.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly accelerating. The early partners, early Q1, I expect to see some of that rolling out. I mean, and so it's order of 3 to 6 months right now to go. And this includes going through. I mean, like FastUSDC all the elements are in testing now, right? But it's a matter of you test and then you system test and then you reality test and then you roll out early and then you integrate and then and so the core functionality, which we'll start talking about soon about how it works, because it's interesting, right? It's using orchestration to effectively be an on-chain solver, backed by community liquidity, right? So that it's not some market maker with a deep wallet is the only person that plays. It's the community can participate in providing liquidity to fast USDC. That's cool stuff, right? And that's cool stuff that will be reusable across a lot of different scenarios. And it's in testing now. So this stuff's starting to come out in early Q1, and then we will accelerate. Which all this the rate, shorten the time it takes to go from starting orchestration to running on chain over the course of 2025.
Now, with this talk about user-facing apps and that being such a focus, what do you think is needed to see large-scale usage of Agoric as a solution? Iulia, I'll start with you again.
So right now we have learned that large-scale onboarding of developers into Web3 involves API access, and that's what we've been addressing with our API. Key problems in scaling Agoric is in position to be an entry point in 2026. Orchestration for Web3 developers is now and then, and we're focused on Web3. Addressing a large-scale market is demanding basically for us to be prepared for the big demand that will come, and we are basically right now fine-tuning our what we call our conversion funnel. We are investing in the education at scale, so we see the interest. We create awareness at the very top of the funnel. We bring in thousands of developers that hear about us and interact with us in some way or another. We've only started now with the deployment of orchestration. We've started rolling out an educational at scale program. It's incipient. It still needs a lot of fine tuning and learning from these direct interactions. And then what we are doing is also enabling better environments for the API to work in, where we are creating the product team and the DevRel team are at work to basically improve conversion. And that is something that it's basically fine-tuning our product suite for adoption to happen. Then mass adoption of orchestration is coming, because what we see is, and what the nice thing that we hear on the market is that orchestration is recognized as a necessity. So when we move from just marketing orchestration as a nice to have, interesting, you can do so much more, to, well, actually, this is the way you have to build, because you can't build otherwise your complex use cases.
It is the future of Web3 apps.
Yeah.
So with that being said, and with on the note of usage, Dean, is the Agoric platform ready for large-scale onboarding of JavaScript developers?
It's a great question. 2023, our focus was go after Web2 JavaScript developers, broad scale Web2 JavaScript developers. And we learned a lot out of that. And, in particular, what they mostly want is API access, where they access Twilio, they access credit cards by invoking an API, and they don't know anything about how to talk to phones, and they don't know anything how to actually process credit cards. They just call an API and magic happens. So it was that, and it was chain abstraction, and we realized that chain abstraction was critical. And as it turns out, chain abstraction orchestration was critical. And as it turns out, it's going to be critical to getting Web2 developers. So first off, Web2 developers, that was the bear market. They weren't very interested. Partly they weren't very interested because that was the bear market and people had let them down. but partly they weren't very interested, they weren't broadly interested at the enterprise level because they go, hey, yeah, I'm not going to do an NFT on Polygon. I want to do an NFT on Web3. I don't Polygon, Solana, Agoric, Cosmos, what platform do I want to pick? Clearly, I can't stay there. I don't want to be wedded to it. And people would look and go, the technology is not ready because you're going to make my users that don't know anything about Web3, they're just trying to buy a right, or participate in some loyalty program for their grocery store, and you want them to move tokens, swap them manually, and sign 3 transactions. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's just the wrong experience for developers. And so that ability to do, no, what's the use case they want? The use case they want is, I swipe a credit card, I got some loyalty points, later I'll get a discount on buying headphones. Right. And, that kind of behind the scenes, it used Web3 so that multiple parties could participate in a decentralized way, and all those kinds of elements that are what Web3 integrating into Web2, business flows will look like. That model is not something that Web3 was ready for. And that's something that, from our perspective, now that we look at it, it requires orchestration, right? It requires being able to write the use cases that a business needs and that a business needs to provide to their users, such that it spans blockchains and does not inflict upon users the details of how we implemented things, right? DoorDash would never have worked if you had to think about which cloud provider was a given restaurant on, and so wasn't going to be able to play well with my ordering food, right? You had to be able to push a button and order a hamburger. And it's that level that orchestration can bring, and that Agoric can bring. And as far as we can tell right now, nothing else can, right? Everyone else is doing this essentially either manually constructed point solutions, or they're doing it off chain. And so to do that on chain, you need the multi-block actions and that sort of thing. Okay, so orchestration first. Get the Web3 next year, conquer Web3 and then the world, right? And then we are positioned to provide that singular API that can get you to whatever financial, NFT, what have you function is available on any chain in Web3 via programmatic APIs that developers are used to. And so that's really being the Stripe of Web3 takes orchestration, and that's where we'd like to get to. So we are not ready for all of them, but neither is Web3, and neither are they. We are doing the things necessary for Web3 to get ready for them.
Yeah, that was great. So
let me add one more thing. People talk, blithely about the next million developers, or, getting 10 million developers, or whatever it is. And with JavaScript, with Agoric, that's possible. What you have to think about is, you don't get 1 million developers by getting them excited about crypto. You get 1 million developers by enabling to solve the problem they care about themselves easily without having to care about you, right? They're not here to make web awesome. They're not here to do tokens. They're here to sell tickets. And that's what they know how to do. Or they're here to manage vacations or hotels, or improve, financial yield for their brokerage customers, or whatever it is. And so philosophically, chain abstraction is that first important movement towards, we need to solve end users' problems, and we need to solve them directly. Orchestration takes it to the next level and is that next level step. But it's really that issue of, they've got to be able to use Web3 with the ease that they use cloud, where they don't have to think about it. It's just part of their functionality, and we provide them all this awesome access to new economics and new technology, and new robustness, new integrity in a way that really helps solve their problems. And that's something that, we've thought a lot about. But what it means is, the web dev down the street needs to have a reason to incorporate something Web3 in the application they're doing for the local college. Right. And if we don't have an answer for that, which we have some answers for that, then you're not going to get 10 million developers, because they don't need you. Right. And we got to bring value to that developer before we ever get to 1 million or 10 million developers. And we know how to do that. And that's just, we need to do orchestration first.
And Dean covered quite a bit of it. Iulia, would you have anything to add on top of that?
I guess I should talk faster.
You're muted.
We can move to the next question.
So are the team on track to hit the items on the roadmap on time?
All right, I better take that. The team on track to hit items on the roadmap. Okay, so roadmap changes over time as we learn and change things. For example, there was a period where we were going to focus on the EVM integration in Q4, but then we had the FastUSCC opportunity and decided to really focus on that as a use case that gets us an effective, valuable, important bridge from EVM into Cosmos. And so we prioritized that and moved the EVM work out. EVM work has started, it's in testing, FastUSCC is in testing. So the answer is these are all high variability, relatively unpredictable, but we have been generally doing a regular cadence of improvements and releases according to the schedule in order we predict. So the answer is getting better all the time, and I am happy with the work the team is doing at doing that. So orchestration, absolutely going to be rolling out new, FastUSCC and new connectivities, and working with partners to get things launched in Q1. And we've got roadmap going out through Q2 and Q3 that's in support of that. So the answer is, with some variability, yeah, we're doing better. We're doing pretty good.
All right, and Iulia, coming to you for this one, will we see Agoric moving beyond Cosmos in 2025?
Yeah, I think it was covered in a few answers that we've already given. Yes, we have already lived through the first moment back in November in Bangkok when Dean showed the first demos on first examples on orchestration applied to the Ethereum ecosystem. And yes, we are going, it's a big yes, moving to Ethereum. The EVM chains, Solana chains are all slotted in for next year.
Yeah. So last year, this is why we originally started partnering on rolling out chain abstraction orchestration with Near and Flashbots, and I had the panel with Vitalik and Iulia, and working with Everclear on Abstract Austin and Abstract Singapore, or Abstract Token 2049. Orchestration has continually been welcoming of all these Cosmos chains, and we can interoperate with them well. And we shipped our first product to enable orchestration across IBC and the ecosystem, but it's all about the Web3. And especially 2025 is all about the Web3, and broader ecosystem integration and enabling, existing Cosmos chains to reach out to theirs easily. So if you can do, liquid stake TIA on Drop, you can, bring something from ETH as well over to be collateral inside of IST or whatever the use case is. So, yep, very excited about that.
Yeah. And
that's always been our vision.
So moving on to the last question now, what are the community growth and engagement plans for 2025, Iulia?
I'm going to drop some alpha here. So yeah, we've talked about actually moving to new ecosystems, expanding to other ecosystems. We are also going to launch some co-branded campaigns with other exciting ecosystems. So no integration, but opening up to other players that we haven't discussed about. That's the first one. So ecosystem partnerships and tapping into big, huge communities of end users and retail end users, retail investors. That's number one for us. Number two, and Rick's spoken about it, but we are actually very committed to doing build token marketing, led and executed by our foundation partners, and we are partnering with them to support and amplify their activities. And that will be a big thing on our agenda in 2025. Next, we are going to work a bit on again, going to others to speak about us. Miguel has been working on launching, and I think that it's like on the pipeline for next week, for 1st of January, the campaign with the KOLs and influencers. Very excited about that. influencer marketing. It's big. And then more community-driven activities and incentives. We are bringing in more gamified and incentivized campaigns. Campaigns you've all seen the Arctic Arena. It's working very well. But definitely introducing more gamification and incentivization. So that's my 5 points for the community, and it comes with the big ask to the community to raise your hand, help us spread the word, and we will find nice ways to interact locally. Dean,
And
more alpha.
You know, I'm heads down. We're heads down on how do we build all this and pull out and successfully launch. So you know, Solana's the most I got for you.
And so the last one from the community wasn't a question, but just a comment. Thank you, and wish all the team members good closing 2024 and an energetic 2025.
And thank you, JD. Thank you very much for how you actually help support the community and drive this community connect calls and drive the sentiment of the community upwards. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to talking to you soon in the next year.
Yeah, and yeah, with that, we're in closing, the recording for this will be available on YouTube soon. Be sure to subscribe to the newsletter for the latest news on the orchestration API, chain abstraction, and general orchestration for Web3. And please share your thoughts on Twitter, send messages here in Discord. We love taking in community feedback. And this is our last Community Connect for this year. And so we'll see you all next year.
Bye, everybody. Happy holidays.